Alrighty, what is up, guys? Welcome back. Evan Aldo here. If you enjoy the content, smash the like button. Always appreciate that. And check out the Discord down below. Let's get right into it. Want to give you an update on Bitcoin, Ethereum. Pretty big update today. Going to talk about, the 30-year as well, the Dixie oil, kind of, the impending stagflation that we're probably going to continue to see more of, the NASDAQ. Things overall, I would say, do still lean on a very bearish level on the macro. Let's get into that. So if we look at the first kind of chart here, my clean chart, the main thing here that we want to, still keep an eye on is the trigger wave to the downside on the monthly. And I think that this will, do what we've done throughout history for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's just that interesting asset that just follows patterns more than anything else, almost kind of, that 4-year cycle is just so unique to Bitcoin and, the deflationary aspect of it and all that. I mean, higher low right here in that bear market, higher low right here. The most logical step would be a higher low sometime towards the end of this year or early next year. And I think that's probably going to be around the 300 weekly moving average, which would be around 21K, potentially high teens is possible as well. Now, shout out to Nightshade in the one of my moderators in the Discord. I've had Nightshade on the channel before, a while back too. And he was talking about, we were in our chat last night. Sometimes I do chats with some of you guys in the Discord, and this is coming down. We're making lower lows on all these momentum waves. This is almost acting as a trigger wave, and you could also see the same thing is happening on the money flow coming down as well. So that's a pretty bearish sign overall, just to amplify that notion of of Bitcoin potentially coming down farther here. Now, if we go on a more marked up chart and look at more of the short term on what could happen here, you do have some gapped RSIs to the downside on your 20-hour. I would say that's a more bearish sign overall. I was talking about the potential of kind of jumping up to this area yesterday, which I thought was pretty likely. We didn't quite get there. That's your 200 weekly moving average around 27.8, but it's possible we could jump up there, hit off of 26.2 again, jump up there, and then come back down. But we'll talk about kind of how ETH looks. ETH looks pretty bearish too, so there's kind of a sign that that may not happen. We may just continue downward here. Based on this trajectory downward, the big point we want to hold is 26.3. That's a big old volume area low. If we break down from that point, theoretically, I think if you break down from that point, it's kind of game over for holding 25 here. You're probably gonna lose that point and then come down to 23 next, as a lot of smart people have talked about for kind of the last month or so. And ultimately, RSI is coming down on your 10-hour here, money flow coming out in your 6-hour. And then if we look some more money flow coming down on your 3-hour as well, you may get an anchor wave to the kind of upside, potentially a bounce kind of off of this area. Money flow, good curvature kind of coming down the 2-hour. Sometimes you come into the red and then you just reject from that, come back into the green. My feeling right now is you might not do that so much. You might come up a little bit here, but I kind of feel like money flow is still deep on that 16 minute, I feel like that bull div could have kind of already played out. We'll see what happens though. I would be more inclined to go with the shorts, and then we'll talk about, ETH just keeps bleeding against Bitcoin right now. Obviously on the bullish case, if you kind of zoom in a little bit here, you are getting those kind of yellow X's and stuff, money flow coming up on the 5-minute, but a lot of yellow X's in 3-minute, trigger wave to the upside. But I just don't know how much you'll see from this. If you do see that jump up, I think you'll probably hit 27.8, stop out a lot of people trying to short, and then you'll potentially come back down right now. Now, I think because of this reason, what I'm going to show you on ETH versus Bitcoin, it could be a better idea for a potential for some shorts on ETH, because ETH just keeps bleeding against Bitcoin. Now we're making the lowest low we've seen ETH versus Bitcoin since, where is it, October of 21. That's the lowest low. We've just kept bleeding. Let's see how much we've bled since September. About 30%. That's significant. And we're probably going to come down lower. Probably going to come down to 0.055 at least. And that's probably the minimum, I would say, is the time I would be looking to start DCAing into ETH. And the news on ETH isn't even that great. It's becoming inflationary because people aren't using it as much. So, I like ETH. I think it's going to do excellent long term. But right now, as history shows, in these accumulation years, similar to 2019, it bleeds against Bitcoin typically. And, the charts would kind of indicate that. And what I want to show you too on the 2 week here is when you have this money flow, look at that money flow right there, potentially to drop down a bit farther, and right to that point, 0.03. It's possible. It is possible. I don't think you're going to go that low. You got to play it by ear. You got to reevaluate the market when things do kind of happen here. But potentially if you see, in January, it could be until January, February, something like that, based on this trajectory. I mean, let's just see here. I mean, if it's like this, bottomed out against Bitcoin there. So putting that, we could place this. January, December, end of year would be a good place, I think. And keep in mind, too, it did bottom out against Bitcoin in September of 2019, but it did not bottom out on its USD pair, obviously, until the pandemic, but not kind of pandemic. It was around this area, around December of 2019. So November, December of this year, I think, is a big point. Now, let's look at ETH on some of the time frames to see what may happen here. 5-hour EMA is going gray, so that's going to be a pretty bearish sign. We're coming down. And also, you have your blood diamond on the daily. So I do think, ETH short, I do have a nice, position in. If you guys are interested, check out the Discord down below. Really good community, great community, very active community. We have a lot of great people. Me and 3 other pro analysts. You're not going to find that anywhere else for the amount of for the price we charge. Probably going to be raising it soon, but we're in the bear market, going easy right now. So check that out down below. And I think this area, see this wick right down, 1530. I think you're probably going to get down to that point relatively soon, unless you see a jump up back to these levels, to get some people out of the market. But rejected from essentially 1640 here. I don't think it looks too good. Monthly, red dot as well. And then if we look at, weekly, maybe you could get that kind of anchor wave thing, bring us up a little bit. But these EMAs, they're turning all gray. So I'm kind of thinking you're going to, come down farther potentially here. Now, for the real short term, you got the anchor wave and the hourly. Sometimes that could bring you up a bit. Bull div on the 30-minute money flow coming up a little bit. Maybe some type of jump back up to 16, test 16. That could be a good place to potentially look to enter a short. You got some yellow X's here, trigger wave coming up in the 10. So short term, I do think, a little bit more upside potential maybe. But most likely you probably can continue down farther here, I think. We'll see what happens, though. Obviously not financial advice. Anything could happen. Now, if we look at, Powell spoke yesterday. Let's just see what happened with the US dollar. Still that trigger wave on the monthly, the opposite of Bitcoin. Powell said, it's interesting because if you look at the odds, like on the Fed Watch tool, CME group, it shows, I think it still shows most likely the next meeting is going to be a pause. But Powell said, and they've said in the minutes that most likely we'll have one more rate hike this year. I believe it's probably going to happen next month, especially if oil keeps going up, especially if commodities keep going up, and we keep kind of seeing, we're seeing more stagflation right now with traditional markets coming down as commodities are coming up, similar to the beginning of kind of 2022, the first half of 2022. And US dollar seems like it's still going to break out. You do have some gap to our size on the 3-day, but that money flow, I think, could potentially overpower it. This looks pretty healthy in my opinion. Now, that weekly, I think I think you're probably going to stay in the green here and just keep coming up higher. This does not look bad in my opinion. You look at the 30-year government bond yield, US 30 yield. This weekly, is jumping up. Some people were talking about maybe a double top, triple top, or whatever. No, money flow is coming up so far. This looks like it's going to jump up to freaking 5.4 potentially. So this would be indicative of one more rate hike ahead, which I think they're probably going to do. And I think that's all the regional banks could probably handle at this point. That's what I think is the max that we're going to be able to handle, that one more rate hike. And I think that's going to be it, regardless of whether it really gets inflation under control. And if you look at oil right here, I think you're going to come up at least a little bit more. This weekly doesn't look too bad. The RSIs look like they could come together, and the money flow could come up a little bit more, maybe a double top, maybe it could come up even higher. I don't know on this. Oil typically, I think, keeps pumping until kind of a recession gets announced typically. So, theoretically, you could keep going until early next year. You had the trigger wave on the monthly. That's played out pretty beautifully so far. I think you potentially could keep going. Maybe one more rate hike is what finally, kind of brings this down in November or something. So that's a possibility as well. If we look at traditional markets, let's look at the NASDAQ. not looking good by any means right now. I mean, nice kind of lower high here. I would say that's bearish for the most part. If you're looking at, bearish div on the weekly right here, price making a higher high, momentum waves making lower lows, good current money flow coming out. 3-day, I think you could continue here and out of this formation that we have. If you were to kind of break down from where we are right now, you have a technical target at 13.7, right around 13.7, which is going to be a pretty big point here. Money flow coming out on the daily as well, and then 12-hour as well. So that's what we're looking at right here. So yeah, ultimately that's what I'm looking at on the NASDAQ. I do think that you probably will break down farther into the end of this year, potentially into early next year. In terms of like Bitcoin and these altcoins and all that, kind of bottoming out. I just wanted to show you guys like Cardano for example. Where could we end up if you do follow that trajectory? January, February potentially. It depends how quickly you come down, whether it's a slow bleed or not. But I think you will probably come down to this 15-cent area, which I think is going to be a huge place to get in. I mean, if you follow this trajectory, it could be a while. That could be into January, February. So, remember, it was in March of last time. I know it was a black swan event, but it was in March of 2020. So going by that, it's probably going to be sometime early next year. Now, for DCAing in, I think that ultimately the things I'd like to look at here is Bitcoin dominance a lot, which looks really good in the weekly right now. Like, once I continue forward, and I think you're going to get up to potentially 55% towards the end of the year. I think that's going to be a real good place to be DCAing into alts. Now, maybe December to mid-December to March, December to pre-halving, December to April could be a good area to more extend it out. Maybe October to March would be a good area for DCAing into alts, DCAing into crypto in general. So that's ultimately what I'm looking at right now. Hope you guys enjoyed this update. If you guys want to trade, check out the Discord. We do a lot of really good trade setups, a lot of really good stuff. Obviously, we're not right all the time, though. Also, FAIRDESK is doing a pretty good promo. We're doing trading competition with FAIRDESK. We also give away $100 trading bonus on FAIRDESK every week to one person who signs with my link and deposits any amount and does one futures trade on FAIRDESK. So check that out, link down below. PHEMEX, we're working on a trading competition as well. MEXC, always really good. 0 limit fees with my link, so check those out. If you guys are interested, smash the like button. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all that. Have a good one, guys. Bye.